Hello, I'm Christina from The Turned Leg. I love to salvage, repurpose, and create and help others to do the same. I've been a booth owner since 2015. And in that time, my booth has grown from an 8 by 10 to now over 1,300 square feet. And one thing I've never done before is put up any Christmas display before like October 31st. But this year is different because this year I set up Christmas in my booth in September. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 3 reasons why I did it. I'm also going to, at the end of the video, show you the entire setup and the display, and I'm even going to share with you one of my favorite super simple display ideas. It's all over Pinterest, so I didn't create it, but I just want to let you know how it's working for me. There are 3 main reasons why I made the switch this year. One is pretty simple. Everywhere you go, to any department store or any home store, you're seeing the decorations up earlier and earlier. Some of them were even up as early as August. So of course that's influencing me because they're putting them up for a reason. I mean, someone's buying them, and we don't necessarily want to lose out on those sales. But the other 2 reasons why I put up my display, hopefully, might convince you to try something in your booth too. And I hope I won't get a ton of hate comments down below about how it's just too darn early for Christmas. The second reason I put things up so early in my booth is because at my antique mall, there were actually dealers that have had Christmas in their booth all year. And although I really didn't think things would sell in the off season, I was so wrong. I work as a cashier at the antique mall that I have a booth in. And I was constantly ringing up Christmas items all year long. So people don't just shop for Christmas near Christmas. In fact, many of the dealers who had Christmas in their booth were almost completely sold out of the really cool Christmas stuff about this time. So it's telling me people are buying throughout the year for cool Christmas items. The third reason I set up Christmas a little early in my booth, to be honest, is I have 1,300 square feet in my booth at Plaza Antiques and Collectibles Mall, and I was a little low on smalls and items. One thing I did have a lot of was Christmas. And it was just being stored in my basement. If you want to see how I store off-season items, you can click on a link to the video. I had a lot of items and they were just sitting in my basement and they weren't earning me money. And I really needed to put some more stuff into my booth to continue to make my rent and make a profit. So why not Christmas? Now, my solution was this. I used to, when I had a smaller booth, take absolutely everything out of my space and then bring in almost entirely Christmas. I would box up pretty much everything except the large furniture pieces and bring in all Christmas. I've kind of toned that down over the years, and my solution this year was to bring in Christmas into one area of my booth, and then I would add more items as the seasons progress. So end of October, we're going to be bringing in more Christmas throughout the booth, everywhere, and taking down those fall items. So probably the question you're asking yourself is it working for you? Are you making the money from Christmas? Were you successful? I would say absolutely. I have been selling Christmas items since I put them into my booth, and I'm selling them regularly. And those are small items. If you haven't heard me say it before and you are a booth owner, smalls make the rent. If you are not making the rent in your own booth, it might be because you don't have enough small items. I recently did an analysis of my profits in my booth space, and I found that 80% of my sales is based on small items. So if you're running low and you got some Christmas items, haul them into your booth, make a little area. You don't have to offend all of your customers by ringing in the holidays way too early, but why not start to slowly migrate Christmas into your space and really get those sales that you so desperately need? As a booth owner, I'm constantly trying things. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Maybe I have a new idea for a display, or in this case, a new way to make more profit. One of the things that I am constantly thinking about is, are the items in my home able to make me money? Because most of the time, unless I list them in my online store, you're not going to be able to sell those items if they're in your home. You got to get them into the booth. And that requires you to get creative. So I am really pleased to report that for me, Christmas has been a huge success. I also have the little added bonus of being one of the first dealers that doesn't normally carry Christmas to get Christmas into the mall. So it's still new and fresh. And I have my items in before others, so there's less competition too, which I think is helping. If you've ever toyed with the idea of bringing in Christmas a little bit earlier, why not give it a try? And then leave me a comment down below. Let me know how it's worked for you, or if you've even done it in the past. I think my biggest fear in doing this was that I would offend my customers and then they'd be like, oh, I'm never shopping from her because she has Christmas in earlier. But actually, it's been the opposite effect. I'm getting a lot of really positive comments from my customers, both online and in person. One of the displays that I used for my booth, now remember, I said I was short on stuff, and I actually have been really short on furniture because it has been selling, which I'm not complaining that it's selling. But when you have a whole bunch of Christmas items, you need something to display them on, bookshelves or some sort of a storage unit, and I really had nothing. So I searched my garage and I searched Pinterest. I'm sure you've already seen the ladder idea. These ladders are always available pretty much curbside, out for the trash, which is one of my favorite spots to get items like this. So if you see one and you have a booth, you might want to pick it up. Next, I went to my scrap pile in my garage and I had some really sturdy boards. And I didn't have to cut these to size, but you could if you wanted to. You can also screw the boards down in place if you want to. The boards I was using are extremely heavy duty. These are old boards from over 100-year-old home, and they were actually being used as the beadboard trim. So these boards are not going anywhere. And I just lined them up in place, and it was a great display. The other cool thing about having a ladder is you could probably even keep this in your booth in case something large sells, and then you could set this up as needed. I've also seen people use this different ways. They could stand it up and tilt it against a wall and use it for blanket displays. There's just so many possibilities. I've hung baskets on them. I'm sure you could check out even more things on Pinterest. I'll leave the link to my Pinterest board in the description box below too, if you want some good ideas for old ladders. Now I want to show you what my Christmas display looks like. Now, as I always say, my booth is always a work in progress. So this is Christmas in the early stages. I still have a few tubs in my basement I'm still going through to make sure I'm bringing in all of the best items and restocking as needed. But I'm really liking how it's turning out. Plan was to bring Christmas into just one section of my booth. Now I know my booth is larger than probably most, but you could do this in a corner or in a front section of your space too. And this is the area that is my Christmas display. And on top is a toboggan that I've added to the display. And I have not brought in everything I have for Christmas. I will be continuing to add items as things sell. And here is that ladder display. And I have put items underneath it too. You could put another board across if you wanted. I will say this has been like a hot sales area. Things on the ladder have been selling first. and that's something to always keep your eye on in your booth. I think with my display, I'm probably going to continue also to expand it outward as we get closer and closer to the holiday season, because I still have quite a bit more to bring in. I'm curious to know your thoughts on Christmas. I hope this has given you some ideas and maybe inspired you to do some cool things in your booth and your booth space. By the way, if you are a booth owner and crave some extra support and community, I do have a private booth owners Facebook business group that you can join. If you want more information on my private Facebook group for business owners, I'll put the information down below in the description box so you can check it out. The doors are open now for new members, and we have weekly lives every Monday. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now get out there to salvage, repurpose, and create.